Hey guys, so this time around I thought I'd do a tag response, and that was to Rhydermike's video, what systems back in the day did you envy? And I have to go back all the way back to my Atari 2600 days, because I remember one weekend my mom, me and my sister spent the weekend at my cousin's house, and my cousin Chucky had a ColecoVision. And I didn't own one, and and I have some right here, I don't own the system. Like he had Smurfs and like Mr. Do, Donkey Kong, Cupid or whatever, and those games blew me away because they were in color. They were totally like, I was Atari 2600, you might say, fanboy. So at the time I was like, make comments like, that's not better than 2600, but the graphics were better. The color, more colors and stuff, and I didn't know about the Intellivision until much later, so the Intellivision didn't come into my world until well after the 2600 was over. And it wasn't just the graphics, it was like, wow, and this is with every system. There are games on there that I can't play, but only that system. I want to experience those games. That's the common theme for every system that I envied. And I absolutely, fell in love with like the Smurf game, how much more better Donkey Kong, how awesome Mr. Do was, because I loved the arcade game back then. And the ColecoVision blew me away. Now the next system going that completely I wanted to play was during my Nintendo Entertainment System days, and that was the Sega Master System. Because I look at video game magazines back then. Of course, this is when video game magazines were first starting. Looking at the Electronic Gaming Monthlies and the Game Pros and stuff, and seeing Phantasy Star, seeing Alex Kidd, seeing the games again I'm never going to get to play. It's like, man, I wish I could have a Sega Master System, but back then, the NES and the beginning of the Super Nintendo days, I was a big Nintendo fanboy. And so I was like, when you're in school getting those discussions like Sega sucks kind of thing, Sega sucks. They ain't got the third party Nintendo have, and at the time they didn't, but Sega made such great games on their own. And thinking about the third system I really envied back in the day was the Neo Geo. Now, obviously, it was way too expensive at the time. I believe it was, $600 when it came out? No way I could afford it. Even my best friend, one of my friends growing up, whose parents got him everything, didn't get him a Neo Geo. See, I don't envy the TurboGrafx 16 because he had it, and I got to play it all the time. So I didn't envy the system because I got to go over to his house and play. I actually bought Bonk because I could play it on his system, so I actually owned the game but didn't own the system. And I played Bonk and a lot of the great games on the TurboGrafx 16, Splatterhouse, great games like that. But I envied the Neo Geo because there was a little like Tasty Freeze, place that just did Slurpees there in this little mall in the town over I'd go to, and in there they had a Neo Geo, multi-game arcade system, or multi-card as you call it now, where you could go in and click whatever game you wanted to play, and I just sit there staring at, was it Baseball Stars or the baseball game on the Neo Geo, and all the different games. It was like, wow, Metal Slug and stuff. Go, wow, that's awesome. I'd love to own that system, but I could never own it. And that's just graphically. I mean, at that time, to have a system so arcade perfect back at that time was amazing, considering the time that came out. When it came out, Super Nintendo, you were getting, the life cycle of that system coming out, between the Super Nintendo, kind of like N64 period, PlayStation 1, graphically was amazing how graphically ahead of everything it was. And at the time I thought, there's no way this system's going to last because it's too expensive. But the reason they lasted so long was their arcade division thrived. I mean, when they came out the arcade game, you wanted to go out and play it because you knew it was going to be unbelievably awesome, and you knew that eventually that would get ported to the system. And it wasn't until 1993. Was it 93? Maybe it was 95. Well, I was in the Navy. No, it was 93. I was in the Navy, and I got an aircraft carrier. I was on an aircraft carrier, and there's a guy who worked on the boat there. Now, I ended up working in the military or in the Navy. You had to do, if you weren't a certain rank, if you weren't a third class, if you were less than that, you had to go do, every so often you had to go do other stuff. Just as like, because you were that low rank, you had to go do other things. So they'd send you out your squadron to do stuff, and I got sent down to basically sort parts, airplane parts and stuff. And this guy had people in his family who happened to work for Sony and who somehow were involved with Neo Geo, and he got to test games early. So he got to test PlayStation 1 games early, and he got to test Neo Geo games early. So the last Samurai Showdown game in the Neo Geo, he got it early. We got to test it out. I mean, it was just amazing. And I envied, always want, even to this day, one day I'd love to own a Neo Geo. But of course, even like it was back then, the price of that system isn't exactly cheap anymore. And those would be honestly the three systems I envy, because back when you got to the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1 era on, I basically owned every system. So those are the systems that I envy. Hope you guys like the tag response. If you guys are interested, go check out the link to this video below, make a video, respond to this video, and I will talk to you guys later.